this effort. The first person I'd introduce is Fumi Olopade, who's my dear friend from the University of Chicago, all right, who is one of the really premier cancer researchers in the country with a particular interest in the hereditary causes of breast cancer, and also very active in the globalization of the breast cancer efforts, which is something else that BCRF is really committed to doing. Great talent exists all over the world, the problem exists all over the world, and bringing that all together is critically important. Susan Domchek, if you can come on out here. All right, all right. And Robert, come on out here. Rhonda Hyde is also going to come out. These two folks actually happen to be married, but that isn't the reason they're out there. I could have chosen other people who are married to be out there, out here also. They are scientists at University of Pennsylvania who are working together with a grant for developing a breast cancer vaccine. And I'm going to ask them to specify that in a second because there's so much interest in this. And I will also say why that's a little bit out of the usual in terms of what we're doing with cancer. Marissa Marchetto, my dear friend, who is a wonderful, wonderful artist, and you know, I was to say a graphic novelist, but that's not, you know, does that mean that the novel is graphic or that you are graphic and you novel? It's actually, in Marissa's case, it's both of them. She's very graphic and she's a graphic novelist, a fantastic artist who really has done wonderful things for us, for the effort, and really for the world. And then, are you ready? Melissa Etheridge, who needs no introduction.
I'm just smarter just sitting here with you guys. Just wearing off on me. Oh, it's great. It's a pleasure to be here. I am honored to be part of the hard rock and associated with the BCRF, and getting to know these scientists, these amazing researchers in this field over the last 24 hours has been amazing, and hearing what they are doing and how they're going about it, and how they, I mean, it's a cliche now, but thinking outside of the box, thinking about, how to get ahead of this as they see people every day getting, sick with this disease. And I'm honored to be up here speaking with all of them. And I love that he's a very accomplished musician, and so I think research, science, music, very, very close, and I'm honored to be up here with these guys.
Well, actually, let me start off with that, because I think that's something that I've never had a problem with that connection, frankly, because I guess I started in music, and then went into science, and then went into medicine, actually, by that kind of route. I was a jazz musician in the '60s. I loved improvisation. And improvisation is not just letting your imagination go wild. There are chords you have to follow. You have to stay within certain kind of structures, but then you have creativity within those structures. And I've always been impressed that great science is also about staying within certain rational bounds, but also exercising great creativity within those bounds. There are rules that you got to follow, but you got to stretch those rules, and you got to move it forward. Now, you've had an extraordinary musical career that's done that really in music, where within existing forms you've moved in directions that other people haven't moved, and then they copy you, and then you move in other directions. And they could you give me your feeling about that, about the notion of creativity within structure?
I think that's the key of life, though. I think that we are the key to life, the key of life too. But I think that's.
I don't know that key.
I know. Well, Stevie Wonder, he had that key. I think my belief, and it comes from a spiritual place, is that we are all here to create. And I think as you get older and something happens called wisdom, it's this wonderful thing that we don't cherish enough in our society. As we get older, we start thinking, okay, maybe it's not all about working, making money, and buying things. Maybe there's something else. And maybe that drive that drives us so long for me well into my 30s, you start to say, what is life really about? What is this whole existence about? And it is about creativity. And I think so much of the way that we've set up our society and our culture is we've got a groove. You tell your kids, here's here's the product, here's the many ways you can make money, now go do it, you know, and it is up to us now to think away from that, to get outside of that, because I think that causes a lot, that's the beginning of a lot of the health problems. We don't understand how culture, society, environment influences health. And that's where I like to come from, is yes, you know, you guys are working so hard, you get in there and get the genes, and you're figuring out this gene does that and this, and what can we do to manipulate that and get around it. And yet, it has been proven that you take the genes and you put them in a different environment, and the gene will adapt to that environment. So I would like to also see the research go past into environmental issues.
I can actually speak to that, because I started off thinking about genes, and the more we began to think about breast cancer as a global problem, the more we realized that, in fact, when we understand the genes, we don't understand people, we don't understand culture. And so one of the really important areas of research that the National Institute of Health, the Genome Center, all of us are now going back to is, how do we place genes in the context of the human being? That genes are not deterministic. That in fact, as we've evolved and as we've moved from different environments, we've learned that breast cancer is not one disease, that it affects people differently, and that we can't in fact move forward in our understanding of the genetic basis of breast cancer without going all over the world to put breast cancer in the context of the environment, of the lifestyle, and of the culture. So I hear you, and anywhere you go, no matter what culture you belong to, you hear people talk about the creator, right? And we can debate that back and forth. But when my patients come to me and they want to put everything in God's hand, I said, well, maybe what you should do is, you know, tell him to put things in my hands and direct me on how to best help you. So I think, you know, the cultural belief, the spiritual belief of our patients really help us and drive this research that we do. And the Breast Cancer Research Foundation has done a fabulous job in bringing an interdisciplinary group of scientists together so that we're not thinking alone about the problem, we're thinking outside the box, and we're having collaborations all over the world to help us think about the problem.
Can I talk about being a survivor? And you said something about the creator and putting it into the creator's hands. Well, I, as an artist, am my own creator. And I think we're all our own creators. We can all create our own life. And when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I actually was kind of depressed. You could totally understand that, right? Like, hello. I felt like the Electrolux of the universe sucked me into a black hole. And I went for a walk with a friend of mine, and I was wearing like schleppy clothes, dirty hair. I mean, I was bummed out. And he looked at me and he said, "You look like a victim. Where's my vixen?" And from that moment on, I realized, you know what? The way to fight my way out of this is to visualize myself as a cancer-fighting vixen. And I thought if I could see it, and I drew myself as a cancer-fighting vixen kicking cancer's bony butt, then I could be it. And I could visualize it, and if I could visualize it, I could become it. So for me, it's about taking the toxins out of your life, and you spoke a lot about that, and that was such an inspiration to me.